Good morning, listeners. You're welcome to this week's Ag Report. My guests this week are Dennis Drennan, the president of the Irish Cream and Milk Suppliers Association, a report from the Irish Farmers Journal's Dairy Day, and a piece about the Remembrance Day celebrations in St Mary's Garden in Thurles. My first guest this morning is Joe Patton from Teagasc. And Joe and I are going to be discussing the Teagasc Dairy Day, which is coming up shortly. Good morning, Joe, and thanks very much for joining us.
Morning, Jim. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Now, big day coming up in Clonmel.
Big day in Clonmel, Jim. That's correct. Yeah, on the 26th. That's the Wednesday. In a short while, the 26th of November on the Wednesday in the Talbot in Clonmel. So we're coming to town, Jim, for the Teagasc Dairy Conference for this year. So we have two events this year. Actually, we're going to Cavan as well on the day after. But for the Wednesday, and what's relevant to your listeners is the event in Clonmel.
Right. Now, there's an awful lot being spoken about dairy at the moment, so I'm quite sure that my listeners will be tuned in very much to this particular interview. So, what's the plan for the day, Joe?
Well, the plan for the day, look, there's a lot going on as usual in the dairy sector, Jim. So we have a busy day. The big ticket items, I suppose, on the day are really the milk markets and the costs and the issue around, the profit and costs on farms. Because as your listeners will know, we had a very, very good year in milk up till a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I should say. And then the milk markets have taken a very sharp turn downward. So we want to get a bit of discussion on that. So we have a very renowned milk market analyst, Chris Walkland. Chris does a lot of work in Europe and UK on the milk price and what's happening on milk price. So we'll be interested in discussion with him on that. We have ourselves and Lawrence Chalou then from Moore Park will look at, what are we seeing, because we have a good lot of data from farms in the locality, in the Tipperary region and further afield, looking at the cost of production. So what can we learn from that? So there's a good session there. And sort of to top that out then, and maybe bring it back to the real world, we have the Kennys from Ardfin, and excellent farmers out there. They will be discussing their response, I suppose, behind the farm gate as to what they want to do around all that. So look, that's the lineup for the first part of the morning. So it's really that sort of cost, grassland, milk price sort of stuff. So that kicks off today. So look, I suppose we should say previous to that, because of all the issues around nitrates and all the issues all the policy issues, we're delighted we have to welcome the minister. So Minister Hayden will open the conference at about, so that'll be from about 9:30 or a quarter to 10 in the morning. The minister will open the conference. So there's a lot to discuss there. Then we'll move into the milk market stuff as we've discussed, and then following that, then we have, and you will have seen a lot about this, the idea of progression, succession in dairy farms. So moving from one generation to the next. So the second half of the day, the second half of the morning, I should say,
Right, yeah.
will cover that in a bit of detail. So that's the whole question of partnerships, leasing farms, profit sharing. That'll bring us up to lunchtime. And then just to finish out the programme for the afternoon, we have a very good session with Donagh Berry. Donagh be a very he's a very experienced person in Moore Park around breeding and genetics. So we're 25 years into EBI, believe it or not. So Donnagh's going to review what has happened over that 25 years and where we're going next. And then we'll finish out the day then with some practical papers on costs and reseeding and grassland and that type of thing. So look, at the main things to remember, I suppose, the sort of at quarter to 10 of the start, we'll be finished, all wrapped up by about 3:30, 4:45. And there'll be lunch in the middle of the day as well. So that's how the thing lines up.
Right. Now, as well as I suppose the people that you spoke about that will be presenting, I presume that there will be plenty of Teagasc people around giving people advice on some specific problems or topics that they would like to discuss with some of your
Yeah,
experts?
absolutely. Look, that's, in particular, if we take that session on succession or generational renewal, like there's Ruth and Ruth Fennell and Conor Hogan will do the session in the morning, but there will be also people around for, if people want to have a discussion in their own right around that. We'll have stands there for people to get started. Look, we'll not answer every question on the day, but at least get the conversation going and get the point of contact made around that, because that's a really important issue for an awful lot of people. And of course there'll be lots of room in and around the conference for plenty of questions to be asked and answered. And I think, particularly maybe in the afternoon, when we look at those kind of practical sessions on the practical research updates and the stuff on breeding, I mean, we want to build, and we will have sort of interactive sessions around those things. So people will certainly be able to get their questions asked and answered, and maybe air a few grievances as well, which we're well used to as well, as you know.
Right, okay. And you mentioned, of course, that Minister Hayden will be there. So he seems to be going around the country at the moment, trying to, I suppose, allay any fears that farmers might have, because milk price isn't the only thing out there that's a worry to farmers at the moment.
Yeah, look, I suppose, to be fair, when you say about milk price, like we're getting used to the idea. Maybe where farmers are getting used to the idea of this volatility in milk price. Maybe the difference this year is that it has jumped down very, very sharply, very quickly. But that volatility is something that farmers have been dealing with themselves over the last number of years. But from a policy point of view, the bigger question, and maybe a question that is to a large extent outside of farmers' control, is really the question on derogation and the future of derogation, Jim. And the Minister certainly has been very, very prominent and very visible, very active around the campaign around that, really, is to put the science in front of the policymakers around that. And ultimately, derogation the decision on derogation is a political one at this point. It's an EU Commission decision. We've put a lot of analysis and a lot of work and a lot of figures in front of people around that to show, what's possible and what can be done and what is being done around helping to maintain and improve water quality. But the timeline on that decision is getting tight now. So you're into the next few weeks. Will say a lot. So you will have seen also that the Commissioner was over a couple of weeks ago for the very same reasons, and the Minister obviously active there. So it'll be really to get an update of where the process is at, and to see where we're going. But as I say, the decision is looming at this stage, and it will have that decision is something that in any situation, in any business, if there's uncertainty about the future, it's obviously very, very difficult to plan anything. So a bit of certainty around that is going to be needed for farmers, and we're very, very aware of that.
And, the farmers it seems to be the only one who is being, I suppose, singled out with regard to water quality. There's much more. There's an awful lot of other agencies and people in Ireland that feed into water quality, and it's a pity that the farmer is the scapegoat at the moment.
To some extent, yeah. Look, I think if we look at the reports from the EPA, and the EPA do drill down into the detail on those reports, it's a very complex question. And I know myself, like I was very much in the dairy game, and it's only in recent years where we've been pulled more and more towards getting a better handle on the water quality, because you have water quality in rivers, in lakes, in the estuaries. They all have different standards, and you have nitrogen and phosphorus and different issues, and there's a whole range of different measures. So Eddie Burgess on our side in Teagasc would always ask the question, and I'd seen him ask the question at different events before: what do you mean by water quality? And people find it hard to answer that question. What do we actually mean when we say water quality, which is a question. But look, at the end of the day, there are multiple contributors to the issues on water quality. There's domestic sources, industrial sources, but there are agricultural sources. And I suppose there's no point in saying there isn't agricultural sources. Agriculture is certainly not It's not 100% of the issue, but there is an issue to be dealt with on the agriculture side. But I think one of the things that we've been saying, and it's important to point out, that we almost have to go a step further and say that, is it agriculture or is it the derogation that's the issue? Because, there are issues in agriculture to be solved, but does that mean, is the problem or the issue or the pressure just coming from derogation farms? And certainly our analysis would say that it isn't just a derogation farm issue. It's not just derogation farms where there are issues to deal with. But look, I think we should be positive about it, but at the same time, Jim, because there's been a lot of stuff done by farms. You can see that, that people are investing in extra slurry storage. They're doing more about, managing their slurry better, managing fertilizer, nitrogen is down. Those type of things are going to, in time, contribute. It takes a long time to see those things. We just hope that we get the time to prove what's happening out there. But look, I think it's important for listeners to break it down and say, look, there is agriculture has its part to play, but it's not just derogation farms. But unfortunately, maybe for those derogation farms, there does tend to be a situation where people, maybe media outside of agriculture tend to put all the focus on derogation farms rather than all the other contributors as well. And that is a source of frustration. But we have the data to show that shouldn't be the way to look at it,
Okay. Anyway, before I let you go, would you just give me the details about the 26th? So full details, what time it kicks off, etc. And the venue in Clonmel as well, please.
So the 26th of November, that's the Wednesday, in the Talbot in Clonmel. So we're delighted to be heading there. So we kick off around 9:30, 9:45. We'll have our opening address around 9:45. We'll go through the morning after a couple of sessions and a cup of coffee. We'll break for lunch around 1, and we'll come back in the afternoon. We should be finished up by around about 3:30 or 4:45. Look, the other thing to say, Jim, too, is that the booking is online. So if you check the teagasc.ie website, you'll follow the links there through for the conference. And just to point out also that this is not an event just for Teagasc Dairy clients. It's an event for all dairy farmers and all farmers really. Anyone with interest in the sector, we're happy to welcome them along. So it's not, you don't have to be a Teagasc client to attend. So look, if there's any issues or any questions, ring the local Teagasc office or look it up on the website, and we'll sort you out.
Okay, well look, Joe, thanks very much for joining us as always. That was Joe Patton from Teagasc talking about the Dairy Conference, which is coming up on the 26th. Hold on there now. Listeners, my next guest this morning is Dennis Drennan, and Dennis is the president of the Irish Creamery Milk Suppliers Association, and they're holding their AGM on Friday the 28th of the month. That, listeners, to you is next Friday. Good morning, Dennis, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Jim, and good to be with you.
And good to have you back on, Dennis. Good to have you back on. Now, Dennis, it's a very important time for any farming organisations to have their AGM. There's an awful lot of, I suppose, uncertainty out there at the moment.
Well, massive. I suppose, look at Jim, it's our 75th anniversary, and I suppose when we started the planning of this many months ago, a lot of things were in a lot more stable position. Milk price was going reasonably well. We were having a reasonably good year, and thankfully after a couple of bad ones. And cattle prices were flying, cull cow prices were flying, calf prices were flying. So for the dairy and beef farmer, it was, turning out, weather was excellent as well. But a lot of things have changed, and almost like the weather, the milk price, everything has changed. So I suppose we've had to refocus, and rather than it being a celebration of our 75th, which it still is, but we also have to, I suppose, try to get the best possible information that we can for our members, and that's what we're doing at this AGM as well.
Okay, so, we're only a few days after your AGM. We're only a few days away from the announcement with regard to derogation. Have you any magic in you that you'll be able to have a crystal ball and look in and see what is going to happen?
No, certainly not, Jim. I think we're probably further away than people maybe think. I suppose a lot of people are hoping that there's a meeting in Brussels on the 9th of December, but I think we have the sixth NAP, or the Nitrates Action Programme as it's called, is gone out to public consultation at the moment. It won't be, the final submissions won't be submitted until the 1st of December. That's the closing date for people to get in their submissions as regards whether they think the sixth Nitrates Action Programme is a good idea, a bad idea, or needs to be tweaked or changed. And I can't see our officials being able to turn that around with the number of submissions that they're expecting between the 1st and the 9th. So I would personally think that this decision will go to March like it did the last time. It'd be great if it could be made on the 9th of December, and we would have certainty for the new years with regards to how we're going to start off and how we adjust our farming practices or our stock numbers or whatever needs to be adjusted with whatever new regulations will come with the derogation, that's presuming that we get it. But I think it's a very short time frame to turn around those submissions and have agreement on the NAP and have that ready to meet the members of the DG Environment Group in Europe. But as I said, hopefully we will have it by the 9th of December, but I'd be doubtful. I think it will go to March like it did the last time. But I look at it, I'm still fingers crossed that it will be decided in December and we can get some level of certainty, because it's uncertainty that's very difficult on any, whether it's a farming business or any other business. Uncertainty makes it hard to make decisions and decide where your future path lies.
Okay, and if we were to go back 6 or 8 months, could you have foreseen that milk prices would drop to where they are today, and maybe they will drop a bit more?
No, definitely not. I suppose we were looking at, we always keep in touch with analysis of the best possible information we can get, and that's why we have the people coming to our AGM that can give us the best possible information. We'll be following the markets, following, even down to the level of detail of the number of replacement heifers available in America. And at the moment, the number of replacement heifers that are available in America is at a 30-year low, which would kind of seem that it'd be very hard for America to increase their milk production. But what they've done is the ability, I suppose, to inject hormones into the cows in America that make the cows think that they've calved, and those cows will continue to milk on. So even though they don't have heifers coming in at one end, they're able to extend, I suppose, the lactation life of the cows at the other end. And that's what's driving on the milk supply at the moment. That's accompanied with a cheap grain price in America and worldwide. They're lucky in America. They can fix their milk price, they can fix their input cost price, and they can fix their margin, therefore, and it makes it very attractive that if they get a positive ratio between the cost of feed and the price of milk, they're able to just continue because they're certain of their margin.
But this particular cut is more severe in Europe than anywhere else in the world. The New Zealand price, even though it has dropped, it hasn't dropped to the same extent as it has dropped here in Ireland, Dennis, or in Europe.
No. Well, I suppose European butter and cheese has always commanded a premium all over the world, whether that was Irish Kerrygold butter or Kerrygold cheese or our famous, cheeses that are sold all over the world, or whether that could be Edam cheese or even our Parmesan cheese that comes from Italy. European cheeses and butters are seen as substantially of a higher standard than most, dairy products all over the world. So we always, I suppose, gain the premium on the rest of the world. So when the market turns then and the price falls, I suppose we have further to fall because we've been at higher heights to fall. So that's what the problem is at the moment, that I suppose Irish butter and cheese were trading substantially higher than Oceanic or American butters and cheeses for probably the past year. So when a tumble comes and we get an excess of supply on the marketplace, that's what causes that. It's real boom to bust for especially Irish farmers, because we're I suppose we don't have the grain input cost that other people have. So it's more severe on us than other European countries, not alone worldwide.
Okay, so the challenge then to Irish dairy farmers in particular is to mitigate as best they can, and I suppose it's a little bit better than the last time milk dropped to a very low price, because the inputs have come down a little bit from their heady high 2 years ago. So maybe there is some little bit of comfort for the dairy farmer there over the next 5 or 6 months.
Well, unfortunately, most of the input costs are still at stubbornly high, way higher than they were, we'd say, 10 or 15 years ago. I mean, everybody's conceived like their diesel bill, their insurance, their labour, machinery, all those things, services that are being provided to the dairy farmers are really stubbornly high. Wages are incredibly, multiples of what they were 20 years ago. So the cost of production is really stubbornly high. We saw the IFAC report that came out there a couple of weeks ago estimating that it was 42 cents a litre, excluding the farmer's own labour. So, I mean, when prices are starting to creep below that now at this point in time, we're not in a good place. And look, it's one of the things, I suppose, that we will be asking the panel of experts that we have on the day is how can we deal with this volatility, or is there any way that we can prevent this volatility? Because, generation renewal is a huge problem, and it's very hard to encourage people into a sector that is as volatile as the dairy sector is, or farming in general. I suppose not even more so than the dairy sector, but it's something that we're going to have to try and find a solution to, and try to ease the volatility, because young people are, I suppose, not encouraged to get involved in the sector because they have, business plans that they want to put together. They have mortgages that they need to draw down because everybody has to have a house to live in, whether you buy one or build one. And, it's very hard to secure that mortgage approval with the volatility that's within the farming sector.
And are you addressing the generational renewal at your AGM on the 28th?
Yeah, it'll be one of many topics that we'll address. Obviously, like milk prices, we've a specialised panel that's not fully formatted yet, but will be, in the next couple of days, that will deal with milk price. We'll have experts there from the likes of Teagasc, from Arnua. We'll have hopefully a gentleman that's not confirmed yet from StoneX that will be very much involved in looking at the future price of milk and where the market is going. So we've a panel of 4 people that will, are experts in their field as regards, surveying the world market and seeing where it's going to go. But we also have the Taoiseach turning up on the day, and we will be certainly pressing on him that we need some sort of income volatility tool that will, ensure a steady income for any young person that's entering the sector, and some way of taking the peaks and troughs out of it. And obviously our Minister for Agriculture, Martin Hayden, will also be there. And it'll be a huge range of issues that he will have to address, whether it's TB, nitrates, all those other things that are causing problems at farm level and causing uncertainties for the future of the sector.
Okay. What would you say to any dairy farmer? This is the last question, Dennis, that's listening to us this morning. What is the one thing that you would say to them at this particular time?
Well, I think come to our AGM would be a good starting point. We have a good panel of experts. We have a good panel of experts lined up there to see where they view the future of the milk market or milk price. That's going to determine, I suppose, our income. We also have the Taoiseach there that we really need to row in behind him and put serious pressure on at European level for the renewal of our derogation. And we also have the Minister of Agriculture who will be key in that negotiation, but also is key in the new proposals for TB. And will be pushing hard on the derogation. I suppose, between the two of them, they're both senior ministers, or the Taoiseach and the Minister of Agriculture will be sitting around the cabinet table and will be pushing Jack Chambers and Pascal Donoghue hard on some form of an income volatility tool that will smooth out and hopefully take the biggest impediment for attracting the next generation to our sector.
Okay. Anybody listening to us and decides we must go to that, how do they make contact with the ICMSA to make certain sure that they attend the actual AGM?
Well, the AGM will be kicking off about 12 o'clock. There'll be a light lunch provided as people arrive between 12 and 12:30. And, obviously we need numbers for that. And I suppose at the end of the night, we will have an expert panel on the dairy prices. We'll have the Taoiseach and the Minister for Agriculture there doing a question and answer session. And we will have a dinner to celebrate our 75th anniversary at the end of the day. But I suppose the celebration will be slightly muted because of where the milk price is at the moment and, the financial pressures that are facing our members. But if they ring the office in Limerick, they can book in for the day and there's no charge to turn up. And, it'll be, I suppose, a very informative meeting where they will have the opportunity to ask both the panel, the Taoiseach and the Minister the questions and get the answers that they feel they need to get to ease their mind as regards where the future is.
And tell me, Dennis, where is it being held?
It's been held in the Radisson Hotel on the Shannon Road, just outside Limerick City. So it's almost motorway the whole way from most parts of the country, whether you're coming from Dublin or Cork, Dublin or I suppose Galway or that. It's on the way out of Limerick as you head towards Shannon.
That is correct. And anybody that wants to book in, just to give them, I'll give them the telephone number. They can ring the office, and the number is 061 31 4677. Listeners at the Farmers Journal Dairy Day, I caught up with Adam Woods, and now he's not the dairy man, he's the beef man with the Journal, but just back from Brazil, so he may have some very interesting things to say about what's happening in Brazil at the moment. Adam, it's great to have a chat with you.
Yeah, a bit of a sorts here in the middle of all these dairy farmers, Jim, but anyway, no, good to be here, and it's shaping up to be a great event. Yeah, no, back from the World Meat Congress in Cuiabá, in the middle of Mato Grosso state in Brazil. Really a good conference, and I guess a positive conference around meat consumption. Some presentations there showing that the consumption of meat in the next 10 years is going to grow. We'll say we have a growing middle class, growing incomes, and that always brings with it increased meat consumption. And then on the other side, production. Production is really tanking in America, lowest cattle numbers in 70 years. Brazil are going to go through a cycle as well. We'll say maybe have lower numbers. Australia also tightening with drought. So it's looking pretty positive in the next 10 years. And look, we're seeing that at the moment at home in terms of the beef prices where we are.
That's the main message now from Brazil. This is what's happening across the world at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Increased consumption, and there would have been a lot of threats in the past around synthetic meat and things like that. Yeah. But we see that Beyond Meat, it's almost bankrupt. The shares 15 cents at the moment. So definitely very, very, very positive and positive around consumption. Interesting to see, I guess, in terms of the price, maybe that's we'll say dictating a little bit less beef in shopping baskets, and actually a move to eggs, would you believe, in terms of a cheaper protein source in some shoppers' baskets. But in general, a positive message coming home from it.
Let's come back home. This time last year, would you have predicted the prices that we were now getting for beef?
I would not, and it's a crystal ball job every year, but definitely we were at $5.50 this day last year. We're at $7.50. A little bit of pressure in the last 2 weeks, probably weather playing into factories' hands in terms of more cattle coming our way. The kill went up over 31,000 for the first time since the last week in April. But in general, it's been a very good year for beef, Jim. You're working off a $7.40 base for Monday morning, $7.50, $7.60 for heifers. And look, at the thinking is with Christmas demand and supplies tight that will stabilise over the next few weeks. Cows under a little bit of pressure, but we see that this time of year every year because processors are concentrating on filling supermarket contracts with prime beef over the next couple of weeks, so they're going a little bit away from cows. We'd imagine cows will pick up again in January because we always see, I guess, mince sales and manufacturing beef doing very well in January. So all in all, good. I guess in the back of my mind is blue tongue, that we wouldn't take in blue tongue at some point because that closes off exports, and that has huge implications for where we're going with, I guess, beef price in the future, because that would put the power back into factories' hands.
Okay, at the moment, all the indications are that numbers are down and will be down for the next number of years. So again, that's going to feed into the price that a beef finisher is going to get.
Absolutely. We're back somewhere around 150,000 head for 2025. Next year, it'll be even lower again. Not as much of a fall next year, maybe 35,000, 45,000 on this year. But again, numbers still tight, and we'll be at the lowest kill next year at 1.65 million head in 12 years. So definitely supplies are going to be tight. That's on the back of really good exports over the last 2 years. Really important that we keep those exports going. I think we're 331,000 live cattle have left the country up until the end of October. We need to keep that going because any year we have high exports, for the next few years we always have a good beef price.
Keeping the old crystal ball on, Adam, what about live calf exports in 2026?
So it's going to be good up until June. In June there's a big change coming in that Netherlands, we're locked out of the Netherlands market after June because we don't have an IBR control programme. That's of concern because the Netherlands is taking 70,000, 80,000 of those Frisian bull calves. We have less of those because of sex semen, but we've other countries really taking up the slack there. Spain, there's huge numbers going to Spain now, big numbers going to Italy, big numbers going to Poland. At the moment, Jim, we're seeing drop calves in the south heading for 600-700. If that's going to continue into the spring, that's going to leave dairy beef margins extremely tight, and it's a remarkable confidence for me personally to see €600, €700, €800 being paid for drop calves because they're a long way off finish. It's different paying a big money for a 500-600 kilo animal because they're a short-term finish. But for that young calf, it's a long time away. You're 2027, maybe even 2028 before they're going to come finishing. And just I'd be exercising caution there and doing your budgets around different beef prices on those calf prices for spring because, there's no point in handing that out if you're not sort of sure of getting some of that back at the end.
It was only a few years ago when we were giving away drop calves.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. How the thing can turn. I don't think anybody's seen this coming. But I don't think, to be honest, we're ever going to go back to that €5, €5.50. I think with the way world production is going and the way cycles are going, I think we're here around €7 for a long time to come. And look, we needed that, and the suckler farmer needed that, to be honest. The suckler farmer has had a great year in 2025. Whelan's up 1,000 ahead. Spark confidence back into that sector again, and that sector needed confidence, and it needed young people coming in. And we're seeing, maiden heifers, breeding heifers, in-calf heifers making great money, and that's really, really positive to see that.
Okay, look at Adam. Thanks very much for having a chat with us here on Dairy Day with the Farmers Journal.
Thanks, Jim.
Good to meet a Tipperary man at Dairy Day. Aidan, you were with me all about the show. We're here now at the show. Are you happy with the way things are turning out?
Yeah, really happy, Jim. We've got a massive crowd. The day is probably suiting us in the sense that it's wet. Farmers have nothing else to do, really. Can't go out to the fields, can't do much work, so they've come to Dairy Day. But look, the attraction really was the stands that we had and the stages we'd set in terms of the presenters. Milk price is such a topical issue. We had, the three CEOs there from Ornua, Kerrygold and Kerry Dairy Ireland, and of course the Christophe Lafougère, the market analyst. And really the message from those three speakers is that there's more pain to come in terms of milk price, which is not what we want to hear, but being forewarned is forearmed, as they say. So I think farmers will take away the message that there's probably further cuts to come in milk price and they need to tighten their belt in terms of costs.
Wouldn't we hope that the next cut is going to be the last cut?
We would hope so. Certainly the message today is that there is potentially more to come than just that. Now look, it remains to be seen. The only good thing is, I suppose, that we have very much a cooperative ethos within our milk processors, and if there's any fat in the system, that it needs to be brought back to the farmers, because certainly with the price of production at over 42 cents a litre, we're now operating at below the cost of production, which is scary it's scary to think how quickly it has changed, considering 2025 was such a profitable year for farmers.
There must be some light on the horizon, would be the way to put it, when you had Tirlawn opening a new plant yesterday.
Yeah.
Which again, I suppose, shows that they have some confidence in milk going forward.
Absolutely. 126 million of an investment in Ballyraggett in the high value whey protein stream, which is a really valuable product to have. They don't have enough of it currently, so they're doubling their capacity to process that whey. But it's a couple of years down the line. That's not going to impact milk price next year or the year after even. But look, it's great to see the investment. It's great to see the confidence that they have in the sector. Obviously, there are challenges around the derogation and water quality and succession. But we heard really loud and clear today at Dairy Day that the world needs more milk, and Irish dairy is best placed to deliver that because low carbon footprint, it's environmentally sustainable, and we can do it in the most profitable way. So I think the signal coming home from today is one of optimism.
I suppose we can expect that milk will get a little bit better towards the back end of next year.
I'd be hoping it'll be before that, Jim. I'm saying no one knows really beyond 3 to 6 months, and really it's only 3 months. So I'd say we're going to be at a low milk price for early next year. But after that, then I'd be hoping that come peak milk or a little bit after it, we should start to see milk prices recover again. But it's hard to say. But I mean, we're definitely below, I would say, the long-term average. Christophe, the French analyst, suggests that 45 cents per litre will be around the average price over the next 5 to 6 years. So we're currently below that. 54 cents a litre is above that. So we're probably not going to be there next year. But if we get back to average, I think farmers will be more satisfied.
Okay, well look, thanks very much for having a word, and thanks for doing the preview with me a couple of weeks ago.
No worries, thanks Jim.
That, listeners, was Aidan Brennan, who is a dairy editor with the Farmers Journal, as you all know. At Dairy Day, I caught up with Amy Ford, news editor with the Journal, and Amy and I are going to have a little discussion about derogation, which is more than on the cards very early next month, the 9th, I believe.
Yeah, the 9th. So big meeting on the 9th of December, Jim. The European Commission's Nitrates Committee, so that's basically the committee that will vote on Ireland's derogation proposal, or should I say the Commission's proposal, to grant Ireland a new derogation. So a lot riding on that meeting. Now that is if the proposal goes forward. If the proposal doesn't go forward to further derogation, we're looking at a March meeting. So we could have news this side of Christmas, or we could be waiting a couple of months like we did in 2022.
It's interesting you said that it could go to March meeting, because I was talking to Dennis Drennan during the week, and Dennis is of the opinion it probably will go to March.
Yeah, I can see that happening as well. At the rate things are going and the rate of change at European level. Obviously, but here at home, our nitrates action plan, action programme, which is tied to the derogation as well, that hasn't been set in stone. There's a public consultation on that up until the 1st of December, and then we're looking at a 9th of December. It's meeting in Europe. It's very tight, so it could well go out to March. So we could be waiting a bit longer.
And why doesn't this decision go to Parliament?
It's the Nitrates Committee's decision. So the European Commission comes forward. So Jessica Roswell, the Commissioner with responsibility for this, for the environment, she was here 2 weeks ago, visiting a farm in Kildare, and she had meetings with department officials and so on. And she was obviously looking at what's happening here. And the way it'll work is that she'll obviously take some of what she saw and what she heard into account. Ireland will go to them, say, they have gone to them and say we want a new derogation, and they'll put a proposal forward and they'll go from that. I don't actually know why it doesn't go through Parliament. It's probably too national an issue. It's probably too regionalised an issue, Jim. They couldn't put everything through Parliament. They'd be awful busy over there then. But I think that it's because it's more of a national issue that it goes to the other EU member states to vote on.
Okay, so that's one of the big issues. I suppose the other big issue out there at the moment happens to be water quality.
Yeah, water quality, and that was something that's obviously core to the derogation. It has been and it will be again. And I suppose this time around, the terms of kind of reference, if you want to call them that, for us getting a new derogation will involve the Habitats Directive, which is linking in water quality, but as well the condition of habitats around the country. So, water is obviously included in that, and that's another term. So there is more work to be done there aside from just water quality. That's the terms the Commission have put forward, and obviously the Department are working on ways to see how the country can apply for a new derogation within those rules, I suppose you want to call them.
Thanks very much for having a great day here in Limerick, and we're all in out of the weather.
Yeah, it's great. Nice and warm here inside in UL, and Dairy Day 2025, roaring success. Okay, Amy, thanks very much for having a word with us. That listeners was Amy Ford, who is the news editor with the Irish Farmers Journal. On Remembrance Sunday, I had the pleasure of going to a remembrance service in St Mary's Churchyard in Thurles, where I caught up with Councillor Jim Ryan and also Johnny Worth, who is very much involved in everything that revolves around fallen soldiers, no matter where they are around the world. And I'll start off with you, Johnny. This is going for the last 26 years. 26 years now it's going ahead. And the idea came about back in 1997. I was on holidays in America and my daughter brought me up to Washington. And I was very impressed with the memorial walls up there, the Korean and the Vietnam Wall. And I knew that there were 72 men from Thurles who died in the First War, and they were never remembered as such. And it gave me the idea to come back to our committee at the time, which we were at that particular time, Thurles Tidy Towns. But we had a committee within, that was the Memorial Committee. And I put it to the committee at the time that we set up a memorial for the 72 men from Thurles. They agreed on that, so we went to the church body and we went to the Urban District Council at the time to get permission, and we went ahead with it. And it was actually opened on the 12th of November 2000 by the then Minister for Defence, Mr. Michael Smith. Right, okay. So it moved on from there, and after that we had, as you can see here, you had the UN Memorial. That was to the 9 Irish soldiers that were killed in the ambush in the Congo. And we went from there on to the Republic of Korea Memorial, which is, the Irish Memorial, which is it stands for everybody that actually fought for Irish independence, not the War of Independence, but independence in general over the centuries. And we went from there up to the great man himself, Tom Semple, and as you know all about Tom Semple,
and a simple stadium being called after him to honour his name. But he was a very famous man. And also on the committee we have Dr. Martin Semple, who is actually son of the great Tom Semple. And sadly, Martin is recovering from surgery at the moment in Denver. So we went from there then, and we had the actual the United Nations, we say, to all the Irish soldiers that have died in the service of peace, going back to the Congo up to the present day. Now, that was a huge ceremony, because on the day, as Jim will tell you, we had a march from Mickey Bowe's Corner up to Thurles, we say, St. Mary's Garden of Remembrance. There was roughly 1,000 veterans with the number 1 Army Band, and it was actually a fantastic day. It was actually history in the making. So, and we went from there then after that. On the day itself, when the UN Memorial was being unveiled, members of the Garda Síochána contacted us here, and we had a little chat. And they wanted to know, could they do something similar? So after maybe 20 minutes talking and a few meetings afterwards, in the same year, as you can see, on the 26th of October, that memorial was unveiled by the Commissioner at the time, as you could see there again. Noel Conroy, who was now there again on the day. We had over, I say, 500, which say between recruits, serving members of the Garda Síochána and veterans of the Garda Síochána, which was fantastic. So we went from there on to then, as you have it here, the community wall. The community wall speaks a lot. There's a lot on it.
Yeah.
And even the first memorial, the first black memorial, which I would like to call it, went up to the Cove Boys.
Right, okay.
And the actual one, you can see it up in the corner here, who gave the light, the Cove branch. And they said on the day, they put up a blank one. And the blank one went down here. And 2 of the men that were there on the day, 4 of them, Jack Gilmartin and Timmy McSweeney, were the original people that came from Cove. They're ex-Navy. And there were also, as you can see, PCs as well.
Right, okay.
So
there's a lot here.
Oh, there's a lot, yeah.
Let me come to Jim here. Jim, you have been promoting this, and you're a great man for promoting the town of Thurles and the district. So, what does it mean to you to be here every single year on Remembrance Sunday?
Well, look, I'm very proud, first of all, and very grateful to be a member of the committee. I joined the committee back in 1999 after I was first elected. John asked me to join it, the very first committee I ever joined being a politician. And the fact that 26 years later I'm still involved in the committee just goes to show the affection and the goodwill and the love of this committee amongst not only the committee members but also the general public here in Thurles. So we're very proud of this Garden of Remembrance. It's now an international Garden of Remembrance, and it's something the town is very proud of. I suppose you asked the question there, promoting it, and you know you do your best to promote it. But obviously we would like to get more promotion, if you know what I mean, from those higher up than just the committee. But look, we do our best on the ground. John is a fantastic chairman. He goes all over the world promoting this Garden of Remembrance, and you have to feel nothing but pride in what he does, what the committee do. Even the people on the ground that come here every day of the week, as I said, picking litter, picking weeds, spraying, painting, cutting the grass. And walk around here today, it's a beautiful Garden of Remembrance. It's one of the best in the country. It's unique. We're twinned with another Garden of Remembrance over in Lebanon, so it's something that the town grasps. Maybe people outside the town don't know too much about it. I'm hoping from your programme, Jim, that it will get the promotion it would need. But certainly, look, it's a beautiful, peaceful place. There's seats here, people can come in, walk around, look at the memorials, sit down here, take time out, chill out from all the worries of the world that's out there, all the negativity. And, it's something that the town of Thurles loves. It's something that has put Thurles on the map. We have people here that come every year from all over Ireland, but also internationally. The people coming from Australia, from New Zealand, America, Canada, Europe, you name it. They love coming here, and they just can't understand, I suppose, that it's not really promoted internationally as a tourist attraction. I think that's something maybe that's lacking, and people higher above than me, you'd be hoping that they would do something in relation to that.
Right, and let's hope that they do. I've just one observation to make. Unfortunately, St. Mary's Garden here is a little bit away from the centre of the town, a little bit hidden away, isn't it? slightly hidden away in Thurles. A gem, but hidden away a bit.
Hidden away, but I suppose it's a very historic street, St Mary's Avenue, and the church grounds here itself, go back to the 1800s, and there's people buried here, from the famine times. So it's a very historic area of Thurles, as you say, maybe hidden away, but again, I suppose we're hoping your programme will ensure it's not hidden for too much longer.
We'll do the best. I give the last words to you, Johnny. How has the ceremony changed in the 26 years?
Well, yes.
26 years ago, I suppose it was very small and very dignified, but today it was very large and it was very dignified.
When I think back the first ceremony in 2000, the first 3 ceremonies were actually in St Mary's Church, and the third ceremony was so crowded, there was a lot of people outside, and it wasn't a very nice day. And I said it to the I think it was, forget now which of the curates were there on the day, but if we could no longer handle it, would I have a word with the Archbishop? And he said, by all means. So I said to the Archbishop at the time, is it okay that we have our ceremony in the cathedral? And he said that was quite okay. Now, that was the first 3 ceremonies. So 3 years back then, I remember after coming out of the COVID, the Canon Ian Coulter said to me, Johnny, he said, will you do me a favour? He said, will you come back to us for one more time? So we did. Now they did the church up inside. It's absolutely beautiful, just repainted, and they've done a fantastic job. And we had a fantastic ceremony there on the day as well, and with the Archbishop and Father Jimmy. But as I said, that was it, how big it has got. But the recognition it has got, we have, I think, about 9, 10, maybe 11, we'll say, different ambassadors who have attended here.
Yeah.
And the very first ambassador to actually attend here, the first 2, were the Australian ambassador and the British ambassador. And that's going back a while.
One of the speakers at the Remembrance Day in St Mary's Garden was Guy Jones. And Guy is with the Irish Lebanese Cultural Foundation. Here are his few words as he spoke about the work that UNIFIL has been doing in the Lebanon for many, many years. And he also touches on some of the troubled areas of the world at the moment, in particular Ukraine and Gaza.
Today, in particular, I wanted to speak more about the fight for peace, the duty assumed by Ireland since 1958. As a nation among nations that survived all sorts of tyranny, hunger, and oppression, telling the world that we are a nation of peace. We went to the far ends of the world and yet returned and influenced a peace on this island. We have a message to the warring nations that no conflict lasts forever. At the end, what is right will prevail. At this critical time, when maintaining peace is most needed, here we are, bidding farewell to UNIFIL, the most enduring peace mission to date. Being with the United Nations, we stand tall with others that we played a major role in preserving the integrity and sovereignty of my home country, Lebanon. Us and the Korean peacekeepers who are still there doing their duty did not just go there to do a job. We extended our hand to the local population. We gave them hope and contributed in them being secure and protected. Today's war are far from being traditional. The war on Gaza and Lebanon changed our perception and exposed how wars are fought. To this example, I equate what an army to an army war in Ukraine did with all the NATO and Ukraine's and Russia's might, that Bakhmut, for instance, took later than 7 months to take, versus 2 years in Gaza, a non-traditional army completely powered by the might of Israel. To give you just an example of what happened once. Once a driver is heading north from Beirut to the south of Lebanon, receives an anonymous phone call. Pull to the side now. We are bombing the car in front of you. That's how it is. This is the new war. These are the new ages. There are no more traditionals where people are actually fighting, whether it is for peace or not. I praise a soldier who goes to do a work of peace, because soldiers are not trained to policing. They are trained to fight. The consequences that they bear when they come home are huge. They are shelled upon, but yet cannot respond because they have to follow a specific protocol about how to engage. I praise the situation we are in as a nation of neutrality, that we are standing totally at a position where we can negotiate and talk to everyone. This is a situation that led my country to lose its sovereignty when we compromised on our neutrality by allowing the Cairo Agreement to have an armed force in Lebanon other than the Lebanese army taking arms or weapons or actually fighting on the south of our border in Israel. This is the most compromising thing that we have ever done, biggest mistake. And today, I ask all of you, I ask all those who are still serving and all of us in government as well, to actually look at how to help Lebanon get back to that neutrality, to that position, and disarm. And we have a huge experience in negotiating for disarmament here in Ireland after our own peace agreement. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Guy Jones, for those powerful few words. That, listeners, is AgriReport for this week. Coming up next is the news at 10 o'clock, and after that, Eamon Dwyer presents Down Your Way.